right, so here's the scene I'm looking at. I am going to include the lifeguard tower, which is kind of a problem since it's such a small detail. Another challenge is going to be the background mountain. You know, trying to choose the correct value and color to make it recede into the background. All right, Oriah, do you have an idea for composition?
Yes.
So you're thinking of this scene right here?
Exactly.
And so you're going to try to focus on wave pattern, or?
Yeah, you can't see it right now, but earlier we saw a wave come in, and so that's going to be the wave pattern, and the white water is going to be my primary focus.
All right, I've got titanium white, cadmium yellow medium, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, and phthalo blue. That's my usual palette, limited palette, but I do have some extra paints that I squeezed out just for fun. This is cobalt teal and cerulean blue pure, and this is permanent red medium from Rembrandt. I'm planning to paint this whole painting with a number 6 natural bristle flat, and I'm painting on a 12 by 16 inch gessoed panel. All right, and you're working on an 11 by 14 inch panel?
Yep.
And it looks like you're gonna tone with a dark tone.
Yeah, I'm just scraping some of the gunk out of my paint thinner can.
Recycle it, man, put it to use. So there's a distant shoreline here, and then down at the bottom got some rocks coming out, and then there's more rocks coming out like this. This comes up, and then right here there's a little lifeguard tower. As I mentioned before, these distant mountains are, I don't know, I have my doubts because I usually like to have sky back here. I don't know, I may drop them down a little bit and include a little bit of sky, but we'll see. From this view, we're looking down the waves, so I want to kind of capture that as well. All right, I made this tower a little bit too big. I want to make sure that I keep it small, and I'm probably going to use my number 6 natural to paint this tower. If I break out a smaller brush, then my fear is that it's not going to sit within the painting. Like stylistically, it's going to look different. So even though a number 6 natural is a little bit big, it's going to keep me out of trouble, keep me from being overly detailed. All right, I think I made this rock too big. I'm going to move the bottom of that rock up a bit. I think that's a little better. All right, so now that I've got the basic shape, I can be a little more specific. Something like that. Rai's got his composition here. Okay, so you are including the distant cliffs here. Looks like you're gonna have to deal with a little bit of the bottom of the lifeguard tower.
Yeah, I leave that out.
Yeah, and then the secondary rock, obviously rocks in the foreground. Cool wave pattern. All right, for the water, I'm going with a mid-tone value, kind of a blue-green here, using ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, cadmium yellow medium, burnt sienna, and titanium white. And I'm keeping this mixture thin because there's a lot of variation in the colors in the water. But I want to establish this pattern first because the water is what I'm most attracted to, and it's kind of the biggest shape. And I do plan to leave areas that are unpainted to suggest whitewater. All right, in this area here, the waves kind of come through on an angle. And this area here is beach. So I might have some breaking waves in a row here, but then they sort of zigzag. So the pattern goes kind of like this, and then they zigzag. And in here, because it's closer, I want to leave a bigger area unpainted. All right, in this area, there's a lot more yellow in the water, in the foreground. Looking for interesting abstract shapes in the white water. right, I think I'll have the water come up like this over here. All right, and there'll be more colors in here and more variety, but for now I think this is a good start. Okay, I've got a mixture of burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, and ultramarine blue. I'm gonna suggest some darks here. It's mostly dark along the water line. And I've kind of pushed the red a little bit in this mix. If I push the burnt sienna in the mix, it goes sort of towards black, and I want to have color in the shadows. So having a dull purple is sort of what I'm after. I don't usually like painting these grand vista type paintings because the shapes are so small, but I just think this scene is so beautiful that I want to give it a go. Who knows, I may learn something in the process, but in the past I've not had success with this sort of scene. It just can get overly detailed because there's not a lot of big shapes to work with. It's all kind of small shapes. Not even sure what's in this mix. I just kept adding colors till I got what I wanted. A little bit of everything from my palette. What I'm looking for is a brownish, you know, sort of earth tone color in the mid-value range. And I may have to darken it a bit and lighten it a bit in some areas. So I'm just trying to capture an average. This area is lighter. I might lighten that up. I've added some titanium white and yellow ochre, so it's a little lighter up at the top. This lighter color is also good for these distant rocks out here. As I've said many times, it's important to cover the panel quickly and not spend a lot of time and energy, or let's just put it this way, no more than you need to as far as spending time and energy on your scrubbing, because I find that it's the ending of the painting that where I'm trying to land the painting that's where I need the most brain power. And if I've spent a lot of time and energy on the block-in, by the time I get to the finishing portion, I'm just exhausted, and then I start getting lazy or making mistakes. Or not making mistakes, but just not pushing myself to finish because I'm tired, and I just think, okay, that's good enough, or, you know, I can't do any better than that. All right, I want to paint in the wet sand here. This is always a challenge. It seems like it's a purplish mixture, so I'm going to start there. And then wet sand on the distant beach as well. One of the problems when you're painting rocks is that a lot of the colors sort of blend together. So actually the color in these cliffs is very similar to the color on the beach. I'm considering embracing the lack of definition. We'll see. I'm gonna lighten up this sand here a little bit. All right, I got a mixture of cobalt teal and titanium white. I want to put in the lifeguard tower. In particular, the lighter values on the lifeguard tower. I can add some strokes of definition, dark definition, but I want to include this right now because I need to decide what to do with the background. And so there we go. And I'll probably use the background to actually carve out this shape. All right, I'm starting with a bluish gray mixture. And I've just got ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, titanium white. I may add some shifts in color and value, but I just want to see what the relationship is here between this background and the lifeguard tower. Obviously, I can always eliminate this lifeguard tower if I don't like the look of it. But in reality, I do like that little bit of civilization within this natural scene. And in California, we don't have a lot of structures near the ocean to work with. So it's fun to take advantage of the opportunity when it presents itself. In a way, it's kind of nice that there's this big mountain in the background, this big presence. All right, so putting in the sky shape here. Actually, I think I do need to. Does it work from back there? Is the value good?
Yeah.
Maybe a little lighter?
As long as you leave some of that burnt sienna line.
Riot's telling me to leave some of that burnt sienna. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna punch up the lights on the lifeguard tower, but I think I wanna put in some darks to begin with. Again, using the number 6, which is really big compared to the tower, but that's all right. That's what I want. I don't want it to be overworked. And the key when you're doing something like this, I've found, is to make your stroke and then get back from the painting. Because if you look at this up close, it's a mess. But if you get back from it, it kind of works. So make all your decisions from back far. Now I can see already I need to darken the background. All right, I'm adding some warm greens at the base of the tower. I want to leave some of the burnt sienna. And then the bushes do go down this way too. And over here. And then it's kind of a lot of shrubbery right in the background. Something like that. All right, so I've gone as light as I can with the lifeguard tower, and I feel like I want more contrast with the background, so I'm going to gently darken the background to turn up the light in the lifeguard tower. All right, so I've mixed up a similar mixture, but just a bit darker. It's a little more saturated too. It's kind of a purple mixture. And I can see what this looks like before committing to it completely. All right, so there's definitely more contrast now, so the tower looks brighter. And the purple color should help keep the mountains in the background. And I don't want a lot of detail in those mountains at all. Maybe just some brush strokes to suggest contours, and that's about it. I want to add some distant white water, but I don't want it to be too bright. Just a little hint of white water in the distance. And so I've got ultramarine blue and titanium white. There's some yellow ochreish tones on these rocks. So I'm using thicker paint here. And we'll see how this looks. I don't want to break up the overall design, but I do want to include some of these lighter values. And then it gets even lighter as it approaches the top here. Also some light on this rock out here. Still using this number 6. Moment of truth here on these rocks. The value of these rocks is lighter than the distant water. However, it might mess up the composition. We'll see. I'm going to leave some of these dark portions in here. And these strokes are loaded. And there's kind of a ridge like this. And then maybe some vertical strokes in here. All right, there's some lighter portions in this area as well, but they seem to be more of a gray color. And I want to differentiate the rocks in the foreground from the rocks in the distance. So maybe I'll play down the saturation and color in the rocks in the foreground You know, and this is nice and bright, so this area here is the main point of interest. And I'm letting a little bit of the warmth show through from the scrub in. I feel like I want to put in this white water now. I've got a mixture of titanium white and ultramarine blue. And maybe I'll drag some of this color into it. Something like that. Maybe a little hint of it out here. I find that when I apply the white water spontaneously and don't overthink it, it works out better. So trying to do that. And then we got this area in here. In this area, I might start with a few vertical-ish strokes and then maybe drag it out like this to suggest a peak. But I might work back into this area. Not sure. All right, I've got some cool whites, but I think I want to add little touches of warmer whites, titanium white with cadmium yellow medium. I want to apply the light bits, but I don't want to break up the design as usual. All right, so I think I'm going to stop here. As I mentioned, the main goals were to try to paint this background and then also the lifeguard tower in a way that was not cheesy. And I think by using the number 6, it kind of worked out. So it doesn't feel like it sticks out from the composition too much. As usual, a lot of motion and energy in those strokes. Yeah, I like how you got the curve of the wave. I didn't quite capture that, but
thanks.
Yeah, I like that energy. Nice little saturated bits of yellow. Ryan's breaking the rules and he's still painting, but he's actually finished. And I'm about to take the brush away from him. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll put a link to Araya's Instagram down below. Stay creative. See you in the next video.